Hello and welcome. Tonight, a helicopter crashes into the water near Bonny Finima River State, killing all 3 persons on board. And the Nigerian military says it has arrested a founding commander of the proscribed organization, IPOB.
On business news tonight, International Monetary Fund projects debt to GDP ratio to drop from 50.7% to 49.6% in 2025.
On sports news tonight, Super Eagles forward Ademola Lookman and Captain Williams Truss Ekong make 10-man shortlist for the 2024 CAF Men's Player of the Year.
And from Abuja, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, hints at the possibility of rehabilitating the old secretariat located at Area 1 in the nation's capital.
And in international news from London, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have been exchanging insults as the race for the White House enters the home stretch.
We begin on a sad note from River State, where 3 persons have been confirmed dead in a helicopter crash that occurred in Port Harcourt, the state capital, today. The accident occurred at 11:22 a.m. with 8 passengers on board along the waterways near Bonny Finima in Port Harcourt, when the helicopter, a Sikorsky SK-76 operated by East Winds Aviation, took off from the Port Harcourt military base heading towards an oil rig facility. So far, the 3 bodies have been recovered. The Aviation Ministry says the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, NSIB, and neighboring aerodromes have been notified and that search and rescue operations have commenced with the support of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, the NCAA, and other relevant agencies. The NNPCL confirmed that it engaged the helicopter that crashed. Our senior correspondent, Chamberlain Uso, spoke with the DG NSIB, Captain Alex Badi Jr., on the status of the search and rescue operations for the remaining 5 passengers on board, who also says the helicopter crashed a kilometer before it reached its destination.
Currently, information available to us is they've recovered 3 bodies. Unfortunately, they're still searching for possible survivors or bodies and debris at this moment. But the weather around the vicinity of the crash is it's pretty marginal at this time. So I hear the search and rescue team have returned to land, but they will deploy again once the weather improves.
Why was there no emergency locator transmitter signal received, and is this in any way affecting the search and rescue efforts?
I doubt it. At this point, we know where the helicopter crashed, so it doesn't really bear on this. And bear in mind that the helicopter crashed, I learned 1 kilometer from its intended destination. So in this, I can't say if it was really of any impact, but we'll be investigating all of these issues as we move forward.
Can you provide more details on the course of the helicopter ditching into the Atlantic Ocean, and are there any early indications of mechanical failure or environmental factors?
At this time, I can't. I mean, it's too early to speak on that, but we do know the weather around the vicinity was a little marginal at the time of the crash. We'll know more in the coming days, and we'll put out a preliminary report within 30 days of this incident. Ministry is doing its job. So far, we've spoken to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority and the Nigerian military who are helping, and as well as other companies in the area, Caviton and the likes are helping coordinate with search and rescue of this tragic incident. Well, this is right now, I can't tell you, but I know there are safety recommendations that we put out all the time, and we have what's called a state safety program with the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, and they act on our recommendations, and we talk periodically to see if those recommendations have been acted upon. Naturally, yes, but I wouldn't say there's any cause for concern, as we don't even know the circumstances that led to this crash. And we've not had a helicopter crash in such a long time that, you know, it's a numbers game. So I wouldn't say there's no cause for concern, but I would not say people should panic. Accidents happen from time to time, and until we know why it happened, we can't come out and say there should be any cause for concern. Our hearts go out to the families affected by this. It's a very, very tragic incident, but I want to reiterate that air transport is still the safest form of transport out there. And you may not know the aviation industry is the second most heavily regulated industry in the world, second to the medical industry. So it's pretty safe, and I wouldn't say there's any cause for concern at this time. By tomorrow, we'll have more. GO team is on its way. As you know, this is offshore, so there's a lot of coordination. So they'll be departing from Enugu and Abuja, heading to Port Harcourt, and then they will get taken offshore to the crash site as well. So we should have more by tomorrow, and within 30 days, we'll have a preliminary report out on our website.
To security matters now, suspected cultists have killed 4 persons after invading Ifite-Awka area behind the school gate of the Nnamdi Azikiwe University in Awka in Anambra State. Eyewitnesses who live around the area say gun-wielding hoodlums invaded the axis around 9:30 a.m. today and opened fire on some persons suspected to be members of a rival cult group, thereby causing chaos and panic in the area. From information gathered, the suspected cultists were looking for members of a rival cult group who were said to be hanging around the vicinity of the Unizik school gate. Responding to the incident, the police public relations officer, Mr. Tochukwu Ikenga, said a team from the command over the scene of the shooting, and according to him, preliminary information showed that the armed men started shooting sporadically, and some bullets fatally hit 4 persons who were rushed to hospital. Still talking security, the Defense Headquarters has confirmed the arrest of a man they say is one of the founding members of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Mr. Pius Igu, just as it announced the death of 140 terrorists who were neutralized in the last 2 weeks. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the Director, Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, who confirmed the arrest at the bi-weekly briefing of operational activities of the armed forces, explains that Mr. Igu is responsible for Osu General Area in Imo State.
It is the bi-weekly media briefing of the military on their operational activities across various theaters in the country.
Our troops are not relenting.
The Director of Defense Media Operations started the briefing with the announcement of the arrest of a man believed to be one of the founding members of the indigenous people of Biafra.
In the southeast, the troops of Operation Udoka, Forward Operational Base Osu, in a sting operation, apprehended a terrorist leader belonging to the indigenous people of Biafra and the Eastern Security Network terrorist group, known as Mr. Pius Igu. He is an indigenous people of Biafra terrorist founding father responsible for Osu General Area in Imo State. Also in a separate development, troops of Forward Operational Base Amaruku conducted a raid on an indigenous people of Biafra terrorist group commander's location. The raid was successful and led to the arrest of the commander, identified as Emmanuel Onwugu, in Imbanu, local government area of Abia State.
Major achievements of the troops within the last 2 weeks is also reeled out.
In the war against crude oil theft, as well as our effort to boost the nation's daily crude oil production, troops arrested 18 perpetrators of crude oil theft during the week. Troops also denied the theft of crude oil estimated to the sum of 1.7 billion naira during the week.
With the successes so far recorded, the military assures that it remains committed to defeating terrorists on the battlefield and in their hideouts for the peace and growth of Nigeria as a nation.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, has sought for adjournment of hearing in its fresh charge against the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, and 2 others to November the 14th this year. At the resumed hearing, counsel to the commission, Rotimi Oyedepo, said the court issued a public summons against Mr. Bello, directing that same be published and that the charge be pasted. The trial judge, Justice Marian Aneni, however, interjected, stating that she did not ask that the charge be pasted, only the summons. Mr. Oyedepo said that he expected Mr. Bello to be in court on November the 14th, making reference to the 30-day duration of the summons, and therefore sought for an adjournment till November the 14th for arraignment of the 3 defendants. Mr. Joseph Daudu, as senior advocate of Nigeria who appeared for the second defendant, however, objected to this. He stated that the matter was for arraignment and that they were ready, noting that the defendants were all independent and should be treated as such. Meanwhile, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, has amended the 7-count charge against the former Minister of Power, Oluwagunloye, and advanced additional evidence against him. Mr. Agunloye is facing prosecution before Justice Jude Onwebuzie of the Federal Capital Territory High Court, sitting in Akpo, Abuja, on issues bordering on official corruption and fraudulent award of the Mambila Power Project contract to the tune of $6 billion. At the last court proceedings, Prosecution Counsel, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Abba Mohammed, drew the attention of the court to some amendments in these 7-count charges and additional proofs of evidence filed against the defendant. He urged the court to allow the defendant take his plea in the light of the amendments, while defense counsel Adiola Adedipe San objected to the admission of the amendments on the ground that the business of the day was for cross-examination of the second prosecution witness, Adewale Agumbiade. The prosecution counsel, in his response, established that it has the power to amend charges against any defendant at any stage of trial before judgment, citing Section 2161 and 2 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. While not objecting to this right of the prosecution, the defense argued that a formal leave of the court should be sought for the introduction of the amendments. It cited Section 2182 of the same ACJA, that's the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. After listening to both parties, Justice Onwebuzie directed the prosecution to file a formal application for the amendment of the charges, which the defense counsel will respond to on the next adjourned date of November the 11th, 2024. Now to the National Assembly, where the Senate has received a request from President Bola Tinubu for the confirmation of the appointments of 7 ministerial nominees announced yesterday. President Tinubu's request seeking expeditious consideration of the request was contained in a letter addressed to the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and read at the commencement of plenary. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, reports.
As lawmakers reconvene on the 3rd day of plenary for the week, a letter from President Bola Tinubu is read on the floor of the upper chamber.
Distinguished Senate President, request for confirmation of ministerial nominees. I am pleased to forward to the Senate the underlisted 7 nominees for confirmation as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The request, which comes barely 24 hours after their nominations, is referred to the Committee of the Whole for legislative action as soon as possible.
Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Meanwhile, against the backdrop of the newly created Ministry of Regional Development, the Senate began crucial amendments to the zonal development commissions.
So the 3 reports will now be received by the Senate.
During a clause-by-clause consideration of the South-South Development Commission Establishment Bill, a slight ruckus, however, ensued. The committee had recommended that 15% of statutory allocations accruing to member states from the Consolidated Revenue Account be used to fund the commissions.
I'm not denigrating the need for these commissions. Let them go there, but we should know it, that in the long run, some of these states, maybe not now, are likely going to go to court to challenge the seizure of their money.
It's not coming from the operational account, it's coming from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. Excuse me, can I explain to you? No, can I explain to you? Now, what is being said here is that the equivalence of money going to each state, 15% or will not be put together, not the money itself.
The section is eventually put to a voice vote, and the 15% deduction is approved.
The ayes have it.
The upper chamber also struck out some worrisome provisions of Section 23 of the establishment bills, conferring operational immunity on board and executives of the commissions. Consequently, the bill skills third reading and are passed.
The aggregated bills taken by this August Assembly be read a third time.
From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, President Bola Tinubu orders ministers of state and heads of agencies of the federal government to reduce their official convoys to a maximum of 3 cars each. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. A helicopter crashes into the water near Bonifinima in River State, killing 3 persons on board. The Safety Board Investigation Bureau says the crash occurred 1 kilometer to its destination. A report on the crash will be ready in 30 days. And the Nigerian military says it has arrested a founding commander of the proscribed organization, IPOB. President Bola Tinubu has ordered ministers of state and heads of agencies of the federal government to reduce their official convoys to a maximum of 3 cars each. According to the statement by the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, President Tinubu also ordered all ministers of state and heads of agencies to have at most 5 security personnel attached to them. The security team is to be made up of 4 police officers and 1 Department of State Services DSS officer. The President instructed the National Security Advisor to engage with the military, paramilitary and security agencies to determine a suitable reduction in their vehicle and security personnel deployment. According to the statement, all affected officials are expected to comply with the new measures immediately, underscoring the urgency and seriousness of these changes. To the Green Chamber in the National Assembly, where a bill to review the description of Islamic law in the Constitution has failed in the House of Representatives. The lawmakers argued along religious lines while agreeing that the Constitution describes Nigeria as a secular state. The details of the bill, which was sponsored by Honorable Aliu Misau, were unknown to lawmakers who urged the sponsor to step it down until it has been properly distributed to them to study and make inputs.
The Deputy Speaker presides over the final plenary session of the week in the House of Representatives.
To supply
A motion of urgent national importance on the need for further sensitization by the central bank as the deadline of the legality of the old naira notes approaches is taken and adopted without a debate.
To urge the Central Bank of Nigeria to issue more new 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes and begin the gradual withdrawal of the old notes from circulation before the deadline of December 31st, 2024.
Attention then turns to a bill for expansion of the Islamic law in the Constitution scheduled for second reading.
What I'm requiring is the removal of personal in Section 24 of the Constitution, Section 262, Section 277, and Section 288, so that other relevant laws, like the public, the commercial law, Islamic commercial law, the Islamic company law, the Islamic international law, can have a place in the Constitution.
Lawmakers calmly argue for and against the sensitive bill.
This is a very welcome development that it will give even an economic leeway for the nation to see the goodness of such practices in our financial institution to get the backup of the law.
The section you're referring to, if it is removed, the word personal is removed, the implication immediately is that
Islamic law will now have a general application with respect to criminal law across the country.
Mr. Speaker, we have to be very, very cautious of whatever we do to alter the Nigerian constitution in a manner that will further widen the divides that we have as a country.
Because of the sensitive nature of this bill, my appeal is for us to step it down and let us have a full house and full time to discuss this bill.
The Deputy Speaker gently but firmly approaches the matter before putting it to vote.
It is our rule here that issues like these, we must have copies we look at. And if the copies are not there, we take another step. But I won't be taking that step from this chair. It will come from the House. So if the majority of the people say they don't have copies of this bill, whether it is good or bad, you don't have the copies. You need to have the copies for us to deliberate on it. Those in support that if you step down, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The nays have it.
In the meantime, a bill to amend the Tertiary Education Trust Fund Act 2011 to provide for additional conditions for assessing of funds for capital projects by beneficiary institutions has scaled second reading. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Now, the central bank has denied reports that it has issued a deadline on the circulation of old series of naira banknotes in the country. In a statement released today, the financial market regulator explained that such claims are false and calculated to disrupt the country's payment system. At the same time, the CBN directed all its branches to continue to issue and accept all denominations of Nigerian banknotes, both old and redesigned to and from deposit money banks. It will be recalled that the Supreme Court ordered that the old series of 200, 500 and 1,000 naira banknotes shall continue to be legal tender alongside the redesigned versions. President Bola Tinubu has made a commitment to the transformation of the country's livestock sector into a thriving and commercialized industry. He declared this at the opening ceremony of the Stakeholders Consultative Workshop on Livestock Reforms in Nigeria, which took place at the State House Conference Center. The president explained the country owes a duty to its children and future generations to get it right in that sector. Our State House correspondent, Larry Lasisi, reports.
The State House Conference Center is filled to capacity by top government officials, traditional rulers, and representatives of development agencies. They're all here for the opening ceremony of the Stakeholders Consultative Workshop on Livestock Reforms in Nigeria, organized by the Presidential Livestock Reforms Implementation Committee. President Bola Tinubu, who is the chairman of the committee, is at hand for the occasion.
The objective...
The co-chairman highlights the potentials of the long-neglected livestock sector.
Reforming and improving its entire ecosystem would be immensely beneficial to virtually everybody, everywhere throughout this country.
Some of the participants agree on the benefits of developing the sector.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security shall continue to have a result-oriented handshake with the new Federal Ministry of Livestock Development. We are irreversibly committed to collectively unlocking Nigeria's 33 trillion naira livestock economy for the prosperity of Nigeria.
We shall uphold the tenets that will bring about cohesion, peace, and stability in our domains, especially between the herders and farmers.
For us in the states and the local governments, that's where the land is. We have to make efforts to make land available, to make the federal government's policy a success.
For the president, the task before the country is clear.
We aim to transform the livestock from its current subsistence model into a thriving, commercialized industry like other developing world. Between 1.2 to 1.5 billion is being spent to import dairy food and all of that. then what are we doing with the size of land?
This two-day event is expected to lead to a carefully considered reform process and a smooth, effective implementation. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, IMF projects Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio to drop in the year 2025. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back. Let's now head to the nation's capital, where Victoria Lonjon is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Victoria. Over to you.
Thank you, Ayo. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, has hinted at the possibility of rehabilitating the old secretariat located at Area 1 in the nation's capital. He gave the hint during the flag-off of the construction of collector roads and other adjoining roads in the area. Our correspondent Kumbi Abuluwade reports that Mr. Wike lamented the poor state of roads in the Abuja metropolis.
These collector roads, CN8, also known as Asikwo Convoy from Obafemi Awolowo Way and other adjoining roads by Daki Biu district in the Federal Capital Territory, is the fourth road project being flagged off for construction by the FCT administration.
This is equally going to open up and have triple effects on not only the Daki Biu district, but the adjoining districts of Jabi, Utako, and Uye district.
One of the guests here sees the opportunity to applaud President Tinubu for retaining the FCT minister.
Yesterday was a shaking in the cabinet. Some were relieved of their appointment, some were redeployed. But for you, you are retained as our FCT minister. This is a testimony that you have overstepped even the target given to you.
In the same vein, the FCT minister commends the president for backing words with action.
When we were appointed, Mr. President told me, I want to ride on the metro line. If the funds are not made available, it would not have been possible. So thank Mr. President by backing his words with action.
He also hinted at a possible rehabilitation of the old Federal Secretariat located in Area 1.
As I was coming in, I told my ADC that on Saturday, we must go to Area 1 and see how bad the place is. And I can assure you, we will take action because no part of Abuja in the city should be seen to be looking different from the other part of the city.
This project, alongside others recently flagged off, is expected to be completed by May 2025. Kumbi Abuluwade, Channels Television News.
And the Katsina state government has outlined its vision for transforming the nano, micro, small and medium enterprises sector with a focus on youth empowerment and economic growth. Speaking during the recent stakeholders roundtable meeting in Abuja, the Katsina State Governor Diko Rada announced the state's plan to boost the MSME sector, including a 5 billion naira merchant fund, which has been launched in partnership with the Bank of Industry, with additional financing options provided through partnership with other banks. Our correspondent Benny Ark reports.
Thank you very much. This is the inaugural Nano, Medium, Small and Micro Enterprises Roundtable, hosted by the Katsina State Government, to showcase achievements, seek collaboration, and foster dialogue for accelerated growth for MSMEs.
The people are ready. Together we can.
The event brought together the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Mr. Hamid Dangiwa, Governor of Katsina State, Mr. Diko Rada, the Deputy Governor, Mr. Farouk Jobe, state government officials, staff and management of Katsina State Enterprise Development Agencies, members of the press, security personnel, commercial banks, development partners, and members of the diplomatic corps.
Aisha Aminu.
The Director General of Katsina State Enterprise Development Agency, Mrs. Aisha Aminu, underscores the objective of the roundtable.
Objective of this MSME roundtable today are threefold. One is for us to showcase our achievements as a state and an agency that is focused with developing MSMEs in the state, and to be able to share with you the progresses we have made in building a robust and dynamic MSME ecosystem in the state.
In their goodwill messages, the Minister of Housing and Urban Development and the Executive Vice Chairman, National Communications Commission, NCC, commend the state government's initiative.
I'm not surprised by the great emphasis His Excellency Governor Radda has placed on MSME development. He is replicating the excellent work at Smedan in Katsina State, creating thriving environment for SMEs to flourish, creating thousands of jobs, enabling economic growth and reducing poverty in our state.
It is very bold and laudable of His Excellency, this step he has taken to create this new agency towards achieving this goal. And of course, we saw what he did at the federal level. So we're looking forward excitedly to see that same being replicated at state level.
The Katsina State Governor, Mr. Diko Rada, takes to the podium and speaks on the plans to boost the MSME sector.
We aim to build a dynamic ecosystem where businesses can thrive, innovative, and compete not only locally but globally. Our approach is based on creating a supportive environment for entrepreneurs, facilitating access to finance, and fostering skills development, and providing infrastructure needed to unlock the full potential of our people.
He then revealed a 5 billion naira MSMEs Merchant Fund, launched in partnership with the Bank of Industry to provide access to affordable finance.
We launched a 5 billion MSME Merchant Fund with the Bank of Industry. We partner with Smedan and Sterling Bank for a 1 billion Merchant Fund, ensuring more financial options for small businesses.
The roundtable marks a significant milestone in Katsina State's efforts and commitment towards economic prosperity and inclusive growth via the MSME sector. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
And Caring Habitat, a health facility that provides medical services for neurological conditions, orthopedic and other specialized care, has been officially commissioned in Lagos. At the event, the Chief Medical Director of Caring Habitat, Dr. Laolu Odemuyiwa, expresses commitment to consistently deliver compassionate and personalized care designed specifically for individual needs through the use of cutting-edge equipment by a team of dedicated international medical experts.
Caring Habitat, an inpatient nursing and rehabilitation facility which began operations in February 2024, is now set for commissioning.
Thank you for honoring our invite.
Guests from all walks of life, particularly those in the health sector, are here to join in witnessing the official commencement of a facility built to offer comprehensive care for a diverse range of patients.
Caring Habitat is an idea whose time has come for Lagos State in particular and Nigeria as a whole. And we are determined to make a difference in the lives of people who need our services.
Dignitaries here share their felicitation and what impact Caring Habitat will have on the country's health system.
We applaud your commitment to providing multidisciplinary care teams, investing in advanced medical technologies, developing community outreach programs, and fostering partnerships.
This is about giving back to our country. You don't have to set this up. I'm sure you're very comfortable in America, where you've spent many years of your life, but you decided to come and do this in your own country. And we're proud of you.
On behalf of the health sector in Nigeria, we really appreciate people like yourself that jackpada to contribute your own quota to the development of the health sector.
With the cutting of the tape, the management of Caring Habitat is proud to show everyone what the 40-bed facility has to offer, which includes inpatient rehabilitation, hospice care, custodial and respite care, comprehensive therapeutic services, nursing services, and nutritional counseling.
I must say that it's one of its kind.
And in terms of value added to the health sector, this is a rehabilitation center. This is where it takes time for those who need to heal properly. More importantly is the homely aura around this place.
Call it stroke, dementia, failure to thrive, not eating, loss of appetite, bed sores. Even people with chronic bed sores that are huge, like craters, we get them well and we get them back home in the shortest possible time.
Located at the Atlantic Layout Estate in Etiosa local government area of Lagos State, Caring Habitat Management says the facility is committed to supporting individuals on their journey to wellness and recovery.
And that's it from Abuja. It's over to Dominic Iwiwu for business news.
Thank you, Victoria. On business news, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has projected that Nigeria's current debt to gross domestic product GDP ratio will drop slightly from the current level of 50.7% to 49.6% next year. According to its Fiscal Monitor report released today, the IMF mentioned that the country's debt includes overdrafts from the Central Bank of Nigeria and liabilities of the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON. The International Financial Institution says the country's debt to GDP ratio was initially lower at 46.1% within the same period last year, level of 50.7%. Meanwhile, the most recent report released by the Debt Management Office on June the 20th shows that Nigeria's public debt increased to 121.67 trillion naira in the first quarter of this year, in contrast to 97 trillion naira recorded in December 2023. As the world moves to accelerate energy transition to cleaner and sustainable sources, a report from the National Bureau of Statistics shows dirty energy demand in Nigeria is still on the rise, with the likes of charcoal, firewood accounting for a large chunk of energy demand in Nigeria. According to Mr. Ademola Ogunbanjo, President and CEO, Oando Clean Energy, these numbers can be brought down with more investments in renewables development in Nigeria. He was a guest on Business Morning earlier today.
We're curating our own transition ourselves. Yes, there's a global agenda that's, there's been attempts here and there to try to stamp a template of transition on the African continent. But by releasing that plan, Nigeria showed leadership, not only in commitment, but also in thinking through the process of the transition. If a group of people, group of friends, have an agenda to see the world, travel the world, and some of them are, they have the money, they're ready today to go. And some don't have the money, they're not ready today to go. You can lean on your richer friends and say, let's create one pot. I'll put my little, you put your much, and then we see the world together at the same time. But if your richer friends are not that responsive, then you can say, you know what? We'll create a different schedule. You guys go now. I'll save up for my own trip. And I will go on the trip when I can afford it. That's what I mean by Africa can actually pay our own way. We just need to ensure that we curate our own timelines, we design our own transition mix, and we invest gradually.
Nigeria and 12 other countries have joined the BRICS Intergovernmental Organization as partner nations as the bloc officially expands its alliance. The bloc made this announcement at its 16th annual summit held in Kazan, Russia, which began on October the 22nd and will end on the 24th. In January this year, the bloc admitted 4 countries, which include Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates, as its members. BRICS is an acronym for the group of more than 10 leading emerging economies, which initially began with Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, with the aims of promoting trade, investment, peace, security, development, and cooperation within its members. And for the first time, Nigeria's stock market's capitalization has crossed the 60 trillion naira mark as the bulls maintain its dominance. Ladi Williams tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the stock market report. So it's been 4 consecutive days of gains, has taken the market capitalization, that's of the whole market, to 60 trillion naira. That's it there, 60.103 trillion. If you convert that to dollars, that's about $36 billion there for the market cap for this market. But the banks are on fire again. You see the tier 1 banks known as the Fugas. They're flying today, even though we know most of the banks are undergoing core banking upgrades, mostly at the same time, causing service disruption for a couple of customers. But the bank bulls don't care right now, taking FDNH up 3.23%. Access Core, the biggest mover, 9.95%. Zenith Bank not left out of the party there, about 1.7% rise. So for Access Core, we see that topping the gainers counter. Again, the bank obtained the Bank of Namibia's approval in principle for a banking license in Namibia. So a lot of bullish news right there. For Access Core, also have Academy Press up there. So that's how your money performed today. It's green on the screen.
And that's it on business news. Back to Ayotunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. Mozambique's ruling party, Frelimo, has won the country's violence-marred election, extending its 49-year grip on power in the southern African nation, according to official results. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have been exchanging insults as the race for the White House enters the home stretch. During a TV event, Ms. Harris said she believes her opponent is a fascist, saying Trump wants unchecked power. She'll later appear alongside Barack Obama, with Bruce Springsteen also joining them on stage in Georgia.
Former Chief of Staff John Kelly, a retired 4-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him.
Meanwhile, the former president, Bill Clinton, has called on Arizona voters not to make light of Donald Trump's remarks, which he said were an attempt to stoke paranoia on the issue of immigration.
If people get suckered by this one more time, you won't fix the border. The record shows that Trump said more fully documented there were at home than undocumented there was.
And Donald Trump has wrote on Truth Social that Ms. Harris is increasingly raising her rhetoric, going so far as to call me Adolf Hitler, he said. Later, he'll be at a campaign in Las Vegas.
And as you know, there are 15 different elements of policy that she changed. She was in favor of sex changes for prisoners at their will, paid for by the government. And now she says, no, I don't think that would be a good idea.
Eran Etzion, a former deputy head of Israel's National Security Council and a former soldier, is warning that Israel's military, the IDF, might be committing war crimes in northern Gaza. In an interview, the longtime critic of President Benjamin Netanyahu also suggested that officers and troops should reject illegal orders. Israel has faced mounting international criticism over its conduct during the war. The United States has threatened to cut arms shipments if Israel does not surge aid into Gaza. The UN has accused the Israelis of repeatedly blocking or impeding the transfer of aid, most recently into northern Gaza. Turkey has hit outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party targets in northern Iraq and northern Syria after a deadly attack on an aviation site in Ankara. Security camera footage showed back-to-back strikes hitting Tal Rifat in northern Syria, followed by explosions and thick plumes of smoke. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported the attacks occurred overnight on October the 23rd, with the footage uploaded early on October the 24th. 2 attackers killed 5 people and wounded 22 others on Wednesday in what Ankara called a terrorist attack. A tropical storm has dumped 1 month's worth of rains over large swathes of the northern Philippines, leaving more than 20 people dead and forcing 150,000 others to evacuate. eyewitness video showed distressed locals gathered as a landslide occurred on a road in Lipon. Storm Trami made landfall on Thursday on the northeast coast of Luzon, the country's most populous island, and caused widespread flooding. The Bicol Peninsula was the worst hit, where floodwaters chased people and their pets to the second story of their homes. Striking Boeing workers have rejected a new offer from the plane-making giant, which included a 35% pay rise over 4 years. The International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers Union said 64% of its members voted against the proposed deal. More than 30,000 of Boeing's employees have joined the walkout, which started on the 13th of September after an initial offer was rejected. Hours earlier, Boeing's boss warned that the company is at a crossroads as losses at the firm surged to roughly $6 billion. Boeing has declined to comment on its latest offer being rejected. And a dust tornado-like storm has been caught on camera near a road in the United Arab Emirates. In one eyewitness video, the column of dust towered over some vehicles and people who were travelling along the road. Bolts of lightning could also be seen striking the ground. This weather condition is characterised by the formation of cumulus clouds in select regions, accompanied by varying degrees of precipitation. Drivers near the town of Sharjah stopped their cars to watch the spiralling spectacle. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Let's now get the latest in the world of sports with Chris Ilems. Chris.
Thank you, Ayo. A lot happening, actually. Well, we'll begin from the Super Eagles. Well, the forward, Ademola Lookman, and Captain William Truth-Ekong have been nominated in a 10-man shortlist for the 2024 CAF Men's Player of the Year. It's the first time the duo will be making the list for the individual accolades. The CAF Awards 2024 covered the period between January 2024 and October 2024. Lookman enjoyed a stellar year at club and international level, scoring 3 goals in 7 appearances for Nigeria at the 2023 African Cup of Nations. The talented winger was also the hero of Atalanta's UEFA Europa League success, netting a historic hat-trick, while centre-back Truth-Ekong was named player of the tournament at the AFCON 2023 finals. In Nigeria under-20 team, the Flying Eagles came from behind to edge Cote d'Ivoire 2-1 in Lomé to reach the semi-finals of this year's WAFU B under-20 championship. With 3 teams in Group B, Burkina Faso's Young Etalon were eliminated on inferior goal count with Nigeria, and the Ivorians scaling through after all finished on 3 points. Nigeria will take on Niger Republic in Saturday's semi-finals. And Fenerbahce boss Jose Mourinho was sent to the stand as new side held his former club, Manchester United, to a 1-1 draw on Thursday to extend the English giant wait for a Europa League win. United have drawn all 3 of their European games this season, and a point does little to ease the pressure on under-fire manager Erik ten Hag. Richarlison scored from the penalty spot to help Tottenham maintain their perfect start in the Europa League with victory over AZ Alkmaar. Roman and Porto picked home wins. Ajax recorded a 3-0 away win at Karabakh. That is sports. It's back to you, Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Chris. And the main news again. A helicopter has crashed into the water near Bonny Finima in River State, killing 3 persons on board. The Safety Board Investigation Bureau has said the crash occurred 1 kilometer to its final destination, just as a report on the crash will be made ready in 30 days. And the Nigerian military has said that it has arrested a founding commander of the proscribed organization IPOB, Pius Igu. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. From all of us here, you have a good night and have a great weekend. And stay safe.